more on functions and how to define them or declare them. We'll say define them because there's a specific way of writing a function that if I say function, again, keyword function and speak, we can say that this is a formally declared function. But there's more ways to actually write this function. Let's explore the 3 to 4 different ways to write a function. Let's just say that this is just going to console log. It's going to console log just a hello, right? It's actually going to console log hello, comma, this. That this keyword is going to come in handy a little bit later when I try to point out some of the differences of why this matters. So here's a declared function. That's one type of function. Really important. Next function, a function expression. So what is a function expression? It is a function that starts out as a variable. So here's a variable, speak, and I'm going to call it speak expression. Here's how you know you're dealing with a function expression, because there's an equals sign. And now here's this function keyword. Notice that there is no name here on the right hand side of the assignment operator, the equal sign. Here is speak expression. I've called it exp so that you can know that this is a function expression. Here's a function expression. And then finally, the third one, which looks a lot like the function expression, but is actually referred to as an arrow function. Okay, why is it an arrow function? And because this last guy right here looks like an arrow. So I'm going to copy that. So all of these guys now, if we look at them on the browser, they will look like, and they will behave as we expect. That out of the console, I can execute speak. Great. There's hello, and where there's the window. If I say speak expression, again, no parameters. That's wonderful. Everything is working so far, so good. And then I'm going to speak, again, using the arrow function. Hit enter, and everyone's speaking. Now, look, I've used the suffix arrow and expression just for illustrative purposes. Do not name your functions with those suffixes at all, unless, of course, it had some type of meaning for your application. So this is now an arrow function. All right, so they look the same. They seemingly behave the same. What are the differences? Let's point out one super, super important difference. Let's invoke speak here. And we're going to see that, hey, boom, immediately this function, this declared function executed. And we can see that out of line 30, I click on that line, I pop open their speak, and it's being console logged. All right, so that's one. How about speak expression? We're going to do one at a time. Speak expression says, boom, speak expression is not a function. That's interesting. Let's speak expression is not a function. I'm going to copy this error so that we can see it over here. And I'm going to comment this out because I want to go and look at this. And I want us to see here that the speak expression here is actually pointing to that function. Hold on a second, but the error said that speak expression is not a function. It's an interesting complaint. What if I console log? Oh, wait, console log, 1 second. Speak expression. What am I going to get? What it gets is undefined. Now, why am I pointing that out? Because what if I said console.log something else? The error that I get is something else is not defined. It's not undefined. It's it's now an exception. Now this is an error. And I wanted to draw that distinction for you because it's important to understand that even though speak expression has not been evaluated and has not been assigned a value of this function, because you did declare it, the JavaScript engine recognizes it. But because it's an expression, the value does not get assigned. The expression does not get assigned until you hit line 36. So it's recognized as a value, right? It's recognized, hey, I got a variable here. I have not set the value up yet, but it has not been assigned a value. It only gets assigned a value here on line 36. And that's why here, the first thing on line 26, it says it's undefined. I'm aware of it, but its value has not yet been assigned. But then when I execute speak expression on line 41, it works. Why does it work? It works because at this point, the expression has been assigned using the assignment operator to the variable, to the known variable, speak expression. All right, so that explains why speak expression doesn't work and why it doesn't work when I invoke it up here. This doesn't work because the assignment has not taken place. Okay, but then why does speak work? Right, because here comes speak. It's first, and we're going to see that now this continues to work, even though the body of the function, even though the body of the declared function is here below it. It does recognize that it's a function. It recognizes it, It recognizes that it's a function, and it actually has a value. It has a body. It's fully recognized. Why is that? It's because these declared functions, whenever you see a declared function, inside of the scope in which it's declared, which the scope that we're working with here is from basically the beginning of the script element to the end of the script element. Any function that is declared inside of the script element as a declared function is hoisted. So what does it mean to be hoisted? Look, here I am hoisting it. It means that it gets brought up to the very top of the execution, the very top of that context, and it's as if it was declared written this way. The entire body gets hoisted to the top. And so whether I wrote it this way, again, I hit save, and I'm executing right away. Here we go. It works. This doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter that it's at the top because since it's a function expression, because it's a function declaration, this could be all the way at the bottom, right? So now I'm here underneath the arrow function. On the last function, on the last actual meaningful chunk of code inside of this context, the entire context, the entire block, the entire context block that we're working inside of, that declared function is hoisted to the top. So this is the behavior for declared functions, but unfortunately, if you're a function expression, or again, this little equal sign is a little signal, if you are a function expression or an arrow function, no joy, no luck, very unhappy, so sad, unfortunate. It doesn't work. Again, it's saying it's not a function. It knows that it exists, but the value has yet to be assigned to it. You can't execute it. If you wanted to, for some reason, you could console log it, right? So console.log, and you would see that it's going to tell you undefined. It's cool. It's there, but it's undefined. You just can't invoke it yet. So that's the very, 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 very important thing about declared functions is that they get hoisted. All right. They become available for execution as soon as you enter the context block that you're defined inside of. Now, that becomes much more important for you later on when you get into writing more and more and more and more code, and you get to leverage that as a part of your design. That's going to make more sense later on in your career. Before I leave here, I want to show you the anonymous function. The anonymous function is a function that's going to be written like this. So here's this function, and I can actually execute stuff here. hold on a second. Console.log, and I'm simply going to say hi. And so there's, look, this anonymous function it rears its head in many different instances. I'm going to come back to this function, to this file over here for a second, where I have this anonymous function merely defined inside of this run property without a name. So that's one way we've already looked at it. But sometimes you have this anonymous function that lives out here, but look what I'm going to do now. I'm going to put a parentheses around it. Okay? Now, if I put that parentheses around it, what happens? The most meaningful thing right now is that it does an error. All right? So this now is actually an anonymous, you can call this an anonymous function expression. This provides no utility, though. The way that we get this to be functional and provide a utility for us is to do the following. You come inside here. So notice, here's the close parentheses. All right, let me put this on separate lines so that we can see this, and that should have a little semicolon there. So here's the anonymous function. We wrap it in the parentheses, which is a form of an expression. But what we say now is we say inside here now, we do an open close parentheses. And watch now, I'm going to hit save and it's going to format it automatically for me. But really important now, notice that the hi is showing up. And the hi is showing up, and it's showing up within line 48. So there's line 48. So what's the purpose and the utility of such a beast? This thing now is referred to not just as an anonymous function expression. It's known now as an immediately invoked function expression, an IFI, an immediately invoked function expression. What's the utility of this? In here, we would set up, we would run code that might set up something in our environment. We would write code that we didn't want to dirty up the global namespace because in here, watch. So in here, I can say var my message. Hi. And now I have hi. And if we're going to see here, it's going to get logged. There's my hi. But notice now here in the global namespace, when the graph is finished drawing, we have the speaker, the speak expression, we have the speak arrow, and we have the speak function. Notice this function, it's not around. All right, I can't invoke it again. It was here, and now it's not. It got invoked. It declared a variable inside of this block, but it wasn't a global variable. So inside of here, I could use and I could declare functions that are going to have essentially a short time span, potentially. But without a doubt, they don't get into the global namespace. And you don't want to do that. You don't want to put too many things in the global namespace. You actually want to put as few things as possible in the global namespace, because it's going to get things, it's going to pollute. We call it polluting the global namespace, the global area, the global scope. So by writing our code within an immediately invoked function expression, we execute it right away. But we also keep these local variables from being accessible to the global namespace, right? So we do not pollute the global namespace. So this function expression, this immediately invoked function expression, in modern web development, you're only going to see it if you write like plugins, where someone's going to use your code and you're going to try and really encapsulate and wrap your variables in a specific area that you don't want anyone to access or even see. The arrow expressions, the arrow functions, the declared functions, and the function expressions written in this manner, they're an everyday thing. One more thing to show you about the arrow expression. I'm going to pop back open to the file for the functions as properties, okay? So the functions as properties, we left Rocky, and we left my second dog, and we left speak here, okay? So here we are again. Let's go functions as properties, and let's hit save, and let's observe the behavior again of speak. So speak, notice now speak is being pointed to by run and bark, because speak, even though these objects, Rocky and my second dog, were declared before function speak, it's as if function speak was it is hoisted, and it's as if function speak was declared here at the top. I have now speak console logging this. Now, why did I do that? Here's console logging this. Let me show you in the console that if I go to Rocky and I have Rocky bark, boom, he's outputting the entire object named Rocky. Watch what happens now. I'm going to do a progression. Var speak is now a function. Var speak is now a function. Let me go to Rocky and bark. Come on now, Rocky. Oh, Rocky's not done yet. So there it is. There's Rocky. As a function expression, it continues to behave as expected. Now let's change this guy up. And instead of a function expression, I'm going to take away the body. And I'm going to make it now an arrow function. In doing so, the arrow function, notice now, bark, inside of the bark function, the keyword this no longer points to the object in which the function is executing. It now points to the outer scope, which in this case, the outer scope happens to be, there's nothing else going on, it's the window. So really important distinction, and this is actually a feature that people have welcomed, because the behavior of this and how it changes when you have a function inside of a function, sometimes that was a pain in the butt, that the keyword this would move on us. We wanted it to kind of stand still a little bit. So be aware that this is a behavior, a feature of the arrow function. So that's the most important thing to remember about that arrow function. Again, the keyword this is going to be a tricky concept. So you don't have to wrap your mind completely around it right now. Just be aware that the function expression does this to the keyword this. All right. So if that's the case, right, I can't do this.name anymore, right? With this.name, now I can't ask Rocky to bark because it changes the meaning completely. Rocky.bark, it doesn't work, right? Oh, I'm sorry. Rocky.bark with a K, it doesn't work because the window does not have a name. I have to, at the very least, get back into a world where I have at least a function expression. And now my Rocky can bark, and we're going to see that this continues to work correctly because now this points to the object. A name happens to be Rocky. So that's the different flavors of functions. Let me come back over to the flavors file because I want to show you now one more thing, and I want to talk a little bit. Where's my arrow functions? Here's my arrow function. In a manner of speaking, if you look at this function, what's the difference between this function and this function? One obvious thing that I can point out to you is, yes, there's an arrow, but look, the keyword function is not there. So this is actually just a very terse function. That's another way to look at it and consider it. I really just consider it, us developers sometimes, and sometimes this isn't a really good thing at all. Sometimes we just like to write less code. It's just more convenient to write less code. I don't like that. So don't think that just because it's less code, it's better. Because as I'm saying it, the word convenient, just because it's convenient doesn't make it better. But let's look at this arrow function and let's make it even more terse. Notice here it's defined as a function. It's speak. The speak arrow function, beautiful. If I had a need for one, let's just say this was my function. I only have one line in this function. I can actually then change this to be a one-line function. And so let me zoom out of here a little bit. Let me scroll out. This is a perfectly fine function definition. Let me continue to show you that the speak arrow function continues to work. Speak arrow is great. That's it. Now it points to this because inside of the arrow function, this points to the window. Okay, good. So a quick one-line function. If for some reason, now, let me write another arrow function, and we're going to call it a quick return. If for some reason you find yourself in the situation where you wanted to simply write, let me write out actually the full-blown function, and you just wanted to return, I'm going to make this a little bit, let me just return the number 8. For some reason, you just know all I want to do is return the number 8. It could be a variable, could be an object, right? 8 is just an example. Instead of writing this whole thing out, what you could do is, watch that now what happens, right? I'm going to replace, I gotta get rid of the word function, and I'm going to make this an arrow function. But if I want it, the one-line return turns into a one-line function. But if it's just that, a return, then we can reduce it to this. So the quick one-liner is also a quick one-liner implied return. So here's my return function, right? So quick return is a function. Notice, look, for all intents and purposes, it's a function. It looks like a function. Here, F for function. If I do a type of, on quick return, it says function. And if I simply execute it, boom, it returns me 8. So that's the one-line arrow function, the one-line arrow function with the implied return, solely for the purpose of saving some space. If you don't like this, like me, I don't like it, go ahead and simply write out the function. You get no points for writing that in one line, well, to the dismay of those who like to write less code, you get no points for writing this as a one-line function. So don't worry about it. Write it out. If you understand it better, if it reads better for you, then go ahead and do that. All right, so that wraps up the different ways that we can write functions and work with functions and how that affects the keyword this. The most important thing to take out of this, because it's going to get a little tricky, is that keyword this behavior and the hoisting of functions.